My name is Bhatia, and my dear students, this is a topic, this is a unit of 14 and 15 we will cover in this class. As you all know, the subject is BHIC 132, and we are going to cover unit 14 and 15 in this class. Unit 14, Social Structure and Gender Relations, and the time period is 700 to 1200 CE. This is a time period we are going to cover over here. And in this time period, when we are talking about 7th century to 12th century, 700 to 1200 CE, this termed as early medieval in Indian history. We all know this period as a early medieval period. This period is neither ancient nor medieval in character, but clearly denotes some departures from the pre 600 CE period and the beginning of medieval elements, and that's why holds an intermediate position between the two. This unit aims to not only provide a comprehensive account of social structure but also include women and gender relations into the social history of the period. Now, what were the sources to know about this time period? How we knew about that the social relation and the gender relation, how they came together. Sources for reconstruction. Various kinds of literary works were produced. These include religious texts, poetry, drama, philosophical texts, technical treatises on mathematics, grammar, medicine, music, architecture, etc. The proliferation of regional states also led to the production of royal biographies such as Ban Harshcharitas, and Ramcharita and Padmagupta, and so many writers they belong to this period. They have given a lot of literary works in this period. Chinese and Arab travelers' accounts are also an important source of information for the period. Just like Zhuangzhang, Yijing from China, Faxian visited India, while Arab travelers such as Suleiman, Al-Masudi, Abu Zaid, Al-Biduri, Ibn Hawqal, Al-Biruni, Muhammad Ufi, and Ibn Battuta left rich accounts on India. You have also heard about these travelers. Besides the large number of literary sources, inscriptions from the period constitute a major source of information for the reconstruction of a social society, social history. Land grants given to temples, priests, officials certain largest amount of epigraphical historical data for the period. The meagre archaeological and numismatic data have yet to prove their usefulness for this period. Now we are going to study about different perspective. It was a national movement that brought the question of women to a central position. The socio-religious movement fought for the cause of women, and many of the pre-colonial practices, just like sati and celibate widowhood, prohibition of widow remarriage, polygamy, child marriage, they came under attack. Many Indian reformists and later nationalist minded historians ventured into the ancient text to study the position of women. Earlier studies were generally concerned with examining the social position of women, with reference to certain select parameters such as their right to property, education, participation in assemblies, as well as their role and position in relation to their male relatives within the limited context of family. Earlier studies on women Earlier studies on women also primarily drew upon Brahminical texts, ignoring their inbuilt gender bias. As a consequence of this selected reading and interpretation of sources, the nationalist history writing generally projected a high social position of women in ancient India. Next heading is the new social order. Means we are going to study about the caste system because we have studied the Brahminical Varna order, and here we are going to start to study about the caste. Caste number one, caste upper class, priestly classes to Brahmin subcaste. When the decline in Vedic sacrificial rituals opened new avenues for the Brahmins, land grants, migrations, state formation, agrarian expansion, they made a conducive environment for the Brahmins to pursue non-religious occupations such as agriculture, trade, administrative and military services, etc. The Brahmins not only adopted agriculture, which was the primary occupation of Vaishya Shudras, but also took up various non-traditional professionals, including trade. Charudatta, the hero of the play Mrich Katika, is a merchant by profession and a pious Brahmin by caste. You can see the example of Charudatta. Sheer occupational diversity and clear gradation of status, such as Raja Brahmins, Kshatriya Brahmins, Vaishya Brahmins, and even Shudra Brahmins, provided both upward and downward mobility. A section of Brahmins moved from landed aristocracy and acquired territorial powers and became the ruling elite of Kshatriya status. The combination of Brahma, Shastra, was not an open status, so they dropped the Brahmin status and purely claimed Kshatriya origin. The emerging ruling families of Rajasthan, just like Chahamans, Pratiharas, Gohilas, they first claimed descent from the union of two Varnas because of their Brahmin origin, but took the role of Kshatriyas origin in Brahmins, and they took the role in Kshatriyas. But once they established themselves, they completely gave up Brahmin status. They completely adopted Kshatriya status. Now, next is the emergence of ruling class. Emergence of ruling class. How the ruling class were doing at that time. In the formative phase, all major Rajput clans like the Pratiharas, Gohilas, Chahmans, they claimed feudatory status of established dynasties, means feudalism. They not only changed their political status by declaring sovereignty power, but also claimed respectable social ancestry by claiming the Rajput status. They fabricated their genealogies and claimed the Kshatriya status with the mythical past. In 11th and 12th century CE, the proliferation of Rajput clans was the result of a comprehensive social phenomenon called Rajputization. Formation of sub-clans or minor clans from the main clans also intensified the process of proliferation of Rajputs. Next is we have studied about what? Brahman, priestly class. Okay. Now next topic is proliferation of trading caste, means the Vaishyas. What was the condition of Vaishyas at that time? We have studied priestly class, we have studied Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and now we are going to study about Vaishyas. Vaishyas became synonymous with Vanji or merchant during the period. Expansion of agriculture and conspicuous association of Shudras with agriculture forced Vaishya to give up their traditional duties assigned by Shruti literature. We have references of their settlements known as Vanji Grama. The proliferation of craft and various kinds of artisanal productions led to expansion of Vanji caste, primarily associated with gems, pearls, corals, metals, woven clothes, perfumes, and condiments. By the early medieval period, the Vanji emerged as a dominant identity. They gave up their Varna identity. Some of Manji families from Western India established their affluence and started patronizing religious social activities. Next is proliferation of Shudras. Early medieval period also witnessed great transformation in fourth Varma as well. Fourth Varna. Early medieval process also led to the proliferation of number of low or inferior Shudra jatis or mixed castes. The emergence of such a large group is neither uniform and nor static. Some older names continued while some new were added at different intervals. Means the fourth Varna, means the Shudras, they have changed themselves. They have totally changed their self. Because in Vedic period we have studied about the condition of Shudras was very low at that time. Nobody appreciated them. Everybody dominant on Shudras. It was very bad condition for Shudras at that time. Now, this is a time period when new classes emerged in the casteism, when the travelers and the educational people, the scholars, they have led to the new things. They have mixed the new things in this caste system. Just like Shudras condition, they have right to choose any other occupation for themselves. That is why they have changed themselves. The new caste means the Kayasthas and Vaidyas. Have you listened about the doctors? These of Vaidya. Untouchability was used as a weapon of exclusion at one hand. On the other hand, it was used to suppress the voice of dissent. But all untouchables were not excluded from society. Some early medieval Brahmanical texts provide exceptional references. The Smrityasra permits the untouchables to enter temples. Smrityarthrasra. They allow Shudras to enter into the temples because at that time, Shudras were not allowed to enter into the temples. They cannot pray with the upper caste into the temple. Atre Smriti, Devanna Bhatta, and Smri Chandrika allow mixing with untouchables on several occasions, such as in festival time, battle time, religious processions, during calamities, invasion of country. They are the time by which they collect together and they did a lot of activities, similar activities as others. Raj Tarangini also provides opposite pictures where Dombas and Chandalas appear to be playing a prominent role in court politics. Kalhan, however, also reveals the horror of untouchability increasing in his age. The untouchables. When the profession became hereditary, it took the shape of caste where members practiced class, endogamy, and marriage exogamy. Have you heard about the types of marriages? Endogamy, exogamy, polyandry, polyany, polygamy, polygyny. Listen about. Endogamy means the marriage within the unit. The exogamy means the marriage outside the unit, outside the kin. Kayastha's Varna association could not be established exactly because of their link with both Dvijas and Advijas or Shudras. Next, have you heard about the tribes? Yes, tribes are connected to forest, just as we can say Adivasis tribes. Land grants made in interior countryside along with villages and patches of forests led state society to come face to face with tribes inhabited there. Many inscriptions indicate that the transition from pre-state society to state society or peasantization was not peaceful at all. They resist both state and new ideology, but both succeeded in subjugating and converting tribes into Brahminical socio-cultural fold. In return, Brahmins appropriated tribal cults into Brahminical fold. Cult appropriation also served the political purpose of the ruling class. Jagannath cult of Puri. Have you heard about the Jagannath Puri? Yes, this is also the best example of tribal integration which emerged under the patronage of Ganga dynasty. Ganga dynasty was ruling there in 11th to 15th century. Yes, Jagannath cult of Puri. That was the best example of tribal integration which emerged under the patronage of Ganga dynasty in early medieval Orissa. Entire tribe did not convert to jati or varna, not entire. Next was the condition of slaves, the condition of mlechas. Mlechas, you have heard about the mlecha caste? Yes, we are going to study about this. The concept was not new. It was introduced much before the early medieval period. Before early medieval period. That time, the people did not value mlechas. The people did not value slaves. Slaves were doing some slave activity for the people at that time, in which family they belonged to. The condition of slaves was not very good. They served the people. And what about the mlechas? Mlechas' condition was also not very good at that time. It was generally used for those people who did not accept the values, ideas, norms of Brahminical society. Because Brahmins, they did not give respect to mlechas, they did not give respect to slaves before early medieval time. It was primarily used for foreigners and indigenous tribes. The framework was used to safeguard the Brahminical social system and to create a dichotomy between the cultured and barbarians. The notion of mlechas was not fixed but varied across time and space. What about the gender relation? The gender relations could easily be understood by studying women's position in patriarchal society with reference to her property rights, say in marriages, say in widowhood, sati system, education, some exceptional roles in politics or administration. Gender relation. As you all know about the condition of women at that time, the condition of women was not very good about that time. In exceptional cases, just like business class families, just like ruling families, the women of that families, they belong to a very, which belong to a very good family. They have good rights. They have a good position in the society. Otherwise, very, very, very poor situation at that time of women. Property rights of women. Do you understand? At that time, women's property was only that property that is connected to Stridhana. At the time of marriage, at the time of marriage, if a woman takes some precious things just like gold, silver, and the part of land from his her parents, that is known as Stridhana. Just like nowadays, we can say that the dowry, which he collect from her family, she collect from her family. That was dowry. Stridhana is connected to dowry. Only that dowry, only on that Stridhana, she was having right on that thing. Otherwise, she was not having any right on any type of property. The early rights of women in the form of Stridhana expanded in the early medieval period. Early medieval commentaries and digest amplify the scope of Stridhana. Mitakshara interprets it as property of any kind belonging to the woman, Stridhana. But the definition is not uniform in all texts. Some texts like Dayabhag and Smriti Chandrika, they recognize the very limited scope of Stridhana. Initially, Stridhana was largely limited to movable wealth. Movable wealth, we can say this. Early medieval inscriptions also indicate that a few of queens and wives of feudatories became fief holder in the lifetime of their partners. Fief means piece of land, the owner of that particular fief. Some of them donated their fief to temples. Some of them donated their fief, their land to Brahmins to gain religious merit. Some of them contributed towards a religious architecture, repair, renovation of temple and tanks. This shows that the upper class women had considerable rights and resources at their disposal. You have heard about the example of Prabhavati Gupta. Prabhavati Gupta was the daughter of Chandragupta Vikramaditya, means Chandragupta II at that time. She was having a lot of fief, she was having a lot of area land because she was a daughter of king. After the death of her husband, she has donated a lot of land to Brahmins. She has donated. This is the exceptional example which we have got from our history books. Yes, exceptional cases. Otherwise, in a lower family, in a normal families, this was not having these type of system at that time. Means the condition of women was very low at that time, and there was no any property right for the woman. Now we are talking about marriage and divorce. Early medieval texts increasingly lowered the marriageable age of girls while prescribing no rules for women. For men, there was no rule for men, only rules for women. Just like pre-puberty marriage was made common at that time. That is illegal at that is this time. If we are talking about this time, this post pre-puberty marriage was illegal. But at that time, it was prevalent. Alberoni observed the same thing among Hindus. A normal age for a Brahmin bride was 12 years. Early marriage made girls more vulnerable to patriarchal domination. But the practice of pre puberty marriage was not universally followed across all classes and strata of population. In South India as well, the pre puberty marriage and the bride price, means dowry, became the norms of the society. A girl's birth was not welcomed in the family. The discrimination against the girl child was getting sharper in upper classes than in lower classes. You can see the condition of marriage at that time. Widowhood and Niyog system. You have heard about the Niyog system? Yes, I am going to tell you about this. And what was the condition of widowhood at that time? The plight of women worsened in early medieval period, getting worsened at that time. More restrictions were added on the widowhood in early medieval text. They prescribed the tonsure of head of widows along with austere, ascetic, celibate life. They shave their heads after getting widowed at that time. When their husbands got died, then they used to wear white sari. They need to wear white sari. They need to shave their heads, and they never wear any footwear in their feet. Means They need to live like celibate life. They also put restriction on diet, attire, self-adornment. In South India, under Brahminical influence situation worsened after 7th century CE. The tonsure of head was an early Tamil practice, later adopted by North India also. Means they are adopting these things like if they are shaving their heads, then we also. Couldn't they change themselves? They have not felt like this. Seriously, very shameful situation of the society at that time. Yes, but this is truth. Rajaram Mohan Rai was a good example. He has said, he has said, uh, he has seen the wife of his brother to be sati at that time. How she was crying. She was crying that she was not ready for the sati. But all people, they catch them into their arms, and they carry them into their arms, and they are getting them into the fire. Okay, that's why he has seen and he has decided at that time that this evil is need to be out from the society. He thought at that time, and that he has done. Sati system means widow burning. The practice of widow burning or sati became a more pronounced practice in the early medieval India. Textual and inscriptional records show it, but it was mainly confined to upper strata, more particularly to ruling and military elite. The practice was a product of patriarchal and patrilocal society where woman and her sexuality were considered a danger or threat to the society. Physical death through immolation was considered easy than the prolonged or permanent widowhood, leading the torture of body and soul both. Extremely torture of body and soul both. The practice of widow burning or sati became a more pronounced practice in early medieval India. Textual inscription records show it, but it was mainly confined to upper strata, more particularly to ruling and military elite. The practice was a product of patriarchal and patrilocal society where woman and her sexuality were considered a danger or threat to the society. Physical death was not easy for them, and this was considered easy than the prolonged or permanent widowhood, leading the torture of body and the soul both. Women were not considered fit for formal education. The condition of women was very bad because they thought that for education, women were not considered fit. Mitakshara explained that women are like Shudra, having no right to a punya ritual, which debris women from entering into educational life. This was a sanskar, upanya and sanskar, by which all need to enter into the gurukuls to take education at that time. But that sanskar was not good for the woman because she was considered like Shudra at that time. Ashasha, 8th century commentator on Narad Smriti, justified the woman's dependency on ground that they lacked proper education and well developed understanding. Elite women had some access to education, and she was having military training also. Lower caste women had traditional training of their caste based professions, craft work, and folk knowledge. Lower caste women, this was a condition. Some exceptional roles, women in politics and administration. Means there was some exceptional cases where a woman entered into politics, they entered into administration also. Exceptional cases. Not only Sanskrit literature got gendered, every entity got gendered. The earth, the realm, all were assigned feminine character. Political domain remained essentially masculine, but women worked in different capacities, which marked a specific feature of gender relation in early medieval period. Whereas Brahminical literature favored male and denied women public roles of authority. Raj Tarangini revealed the best example of female rulership of early medieval period. The text not only highlights the women sovereign rulers but also of women's agency behind the throne. The text provides the reign of three female rulers of Kashmir, Yashovati, Sugandha, and Didda of Gonda, Utpala, and Yashakara dynasties respectively. They were the women who ruled at that time, in opposition to 104 male rulers. Yes, they were the example because they were the exceptional example. That's why they have given their names also. Exceptional cases. Now our next unit is growth of art, language and literature. Unit 15. The second last unit of that time. Before starting this unit, we have studied about the role of women. We have studied about the role of sati system because at that time women's situation was very bad. We have studied about widowhood and niyog system. Niyog system is the system where when the wife, when the lady got widow, at that time when the husband of her when the husband of a lady they got dead at that time, the niyog system they carry at that time. The elder or younger brother, elder to not, younger brother of that particular lady, brother-in-law, younger brother-in-law of that particular lady, of that widow lady, they got married with the younger brother-in-law with her. That is the condition. That is the system, Niyoga system. They allowed at that time. Niyoga system. Okay. We have studied about marriage, endogamy, exogamy. At that time, the condition of marriage at that time, the woman was not having any particular right for the marriage. The age of the marriage of women was very less at that time. We have got examples of 12 years, 13 years at that time. They got married at that time. The divorce was very easy at that time. And we have studied about the property rights of a woman. Means, except exceptional cases, the women have no right at that time for the property. Gender relations means there was very much differentiation between males and females, because nowadays we think that the condition of woman is very good at this time, but at that time the condition of woman was very bad at that time. Male dominating society, patriarchal system and prevalent at that time. Slaves, the condition of slaves was not very good at that time, because all the society has differentiate the society differentiate the society into four varnas: Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. And from these four varnas, after Vedic religion, after Vedic period, they got changed in the Vedic things. Just like they have changed the varna system also. Brahman, they got Kshatriya, and Brahman, they got Shudra also. They have done a lot of activities related to not to the particular varna which they belong. They have changed so many things. Tribes. We have studied about the tribes. We have studied about militias. We have studied about nishadas. Nishadas, the good example of nishada was Eklavya, because The condition of nishadas was very bad at that time. Untouchables just like to whom we are not right to touch that people. Untouchables. The condition of untouchables was also very bad. But at this time, after Vedic religion, means this time which we are talking about 7 to 1200 century, we are talking about means early medieval period. They have changed their situation, that condition. We have studied about new caste, so many jatis. We have studied about kayasthas, Vedyas. Vedyas means connected to doctors. Okay, these things we talk about. Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudras. We have talked about in our unit 14. Trading caste means the Vaishyas. Vaishyas, they belong to the settlements, just like they were known as Vanji also in South India. They have changed their time. Just we are talking about Vaishyas. We are talking about traders now, and that time they talk about Vanjis, Vanji Grama, Vanjis. Ruling caste, we have talked about Rajput clans, we have talked about, and we have talked about Kshatriya status. So many things we have discussed about in this unit 14. And now in unit 15, we are going to discuss about condition of art and growth of art, language, and literature from 3rd century to 1206. Architecture, if we are going to talk about architecture, means the Gupta period which we are talking about. Okay, because the century which they belong to, 3rd century to 1206, which we are talking about Gupta period, the time period Gupta. The Gupta kings were keenly interested in building temples because all rulers, they keenly interested in building temples so that after the empire, next generation will remember them. That's why they were keen interested in building temples and installing images of their devoted gods therein. Bhakti ideology, an increasing significance of image worship, resulted in building of freestanding temples with a cell and sanctuary called Garbhagriha in which the image of the deity was housed. Image worship. After the Bhakti ideology, you have heard about the Bhakti ideology? Means when the people worship image, when the people worship some idols just like Krishna, Shiva, and so many god and goddesses just like Durga, Parvati. Okay, they were worshipping at that time. This resulted in the building of freestanding temples. Because at that time, in temples, there was no right to enter for the mlechas, for the untouchables, for the shudras that time. With a cella or sanctuary called the Garbhagriha, in which the image of deity was housed, because we have kept the deity of that particular god at that particular place. That place is called Garbhagriha. The Gupta temple building activity represent evolution from the earlier tradition of rock-cut shrines, which now reached a whole new level. It marks the formative phase of temple construction in India, but it was a significant phase that continued to influence temple building right up to the medieval period at that time. This age prepared the ground for immense possibilities for the future that laid the foundation of characteristic styles of Indian temple architecture. The condition of architecture was very good at that time because the Gupta rulers, they were very keen in interested. They were very interested in building temples and installing image of their devoted gods, just like their Ishta Devas, just like Krishna and Shiva, Vishnu and Shiva. It has a square chamber that with the image of primarily deity. Each of the four corners of this plinth has a subsidiary shrine that encased a secondary deity. means the main god is there, which is centered on a center point. This is one of the earliest evidences of Panchayatna, five shrine, kind of temples which were built on a large scale in later times and reflected the expanding domain of gods and goddesses in Hindu pantheon. Many such temples have sculptural panels wherein the leading god is given the central position with subsidiary deities surrounding him. Leading god means just like the main god was kept in the central position. And surrounding him, there was subsidiary deities kept over there. And in many instances, the chief deity is larger in size and the scale than his subordinate gods. Of course, we have evidence of structural remains of magnificent stupas. Yes, we have seen a lot of examples just like stupas, chaityas, viharas of Gupta period from the Buddhist site of Sarnath, Nalanda, Rajgir, and Jolian and Mohara Maradi, which is in Takshila in Pakistan nowadays, and Pushkalavati, ancient Gandhar religion of present day Pakistan, etc. We have seen a lot of evidences related to stupas, chaityas, and viharas. Now we are talking about the condition of sculpture at that time in 3rd century BCE to 1200 century BCE. There were innumerable sculptures of a host of Brahminical deities, just like Vishnu, just like Shiva, just like Kartikeya, Ganesha, Surya. These were the innumerable sculptures of a host of Brahminical deities, as well as Buddhist and Jaina figures such as Buddha, Bodhisattvas, and Tirthankaras, etc. They are known from this period. Same time period they were following to the Indian gods and to the Buddhist and Jaina gods also. Vaishnavism and Shaivism means Vaishnavism Alavars and Shaivism means Nainars. They were god popular sect, patronized by the Gupta kings. And sculptors made the images of their principal deities on a regular basis, which reveal an easy expertise in the handling of Puranic legends such as stories of incarnations. Incarnations means the avatars of Vishnu, as well as the lesser Vaishnavite deities. Representations from the lives of Rama and Krishna found effective success in the temple sculptures at Devgarh. A human-sized statue of Harihara, human-sized statue of Harihara, that is connected to the syncretic union of Vishnu and Shiva also. That is found from MP, Madhya Pradesh. The two halves of the combined depiction are easily recognizable on the basis of differences in the headdress and the other features. A fine specimen of Krishna lifting Mount Govardhana is recovered from Arra. Arra that is connected to Varanasi and that is connected district UP. A nearly 6 feet high Buddha image of bronze that was found at Sultanganj near Bhagalpur, Bihar. We have also seen this statue in National Museum in Delhi that is kept over there also. It weighs over a ton. Fazian mentioned an over 82 feet high, gigantic Buddha statue made of copper, which was not found, which had not been found. The Gupta artisans made images in iron, copper, bronze that shows their expertise in metallurgy and knowledge of advanced metal technology. We have listened about Ajanta caves, Ellora caves also. Now we are going to discuss about Ajanta caves. The Ajanta caves are renowned all over the world for their beautiful paintings. I have also seen that paintings. However, there are also sculptures in these caves which are equally vocal about the magnificence of Gupta art. For example, the image of cave 9 of Nagaraja seated with his queen. Nagaraja seated with his queen. That is a good example of that particular time. Now we are going to talk about the situation, the condition of painting at that time. Painting in the Gupta era struck a new line of development like never before. Painting that struck a new line of development like never before. The glory and the splendor of Gupta painting is unmatched in ancient Indian history. Painting in the Gupta era struck a new line of development like never before. The glory and the splendor of Gupta painting is unmatched in ancient Indian history. If on one hand we get an insight into the affluence of rich people, on the other hand we also see the scenes from the lives of mendicants and beggars. Both things we have discussed about. Decorations, ceilings, pedestals, columns, facades, doorways, and window frames, they give evidence of painters' extraordinary ability of conception and technique. It looks as if the artist left no stone unturned in turning these cave sites into the masterpieces of their genius, skill, and craft. Yes, we have discussed a lot about. Now this is a time to discuss about the growth of language. There were so many languages which we are going to discuss about that time in 3rd century to 1200 means Ashoka period. That time they give no importance, less importance to Sanskrit because Ashoka was got Buddhist at that time. He adopted Buddhism at that time. That time, Sanskrit had suffered a serious setback since the time of Ashoka due to his widespread patronage of Buddhism. But now it got a fresh lease of life under the Guptas. They made it the official language of their court and liberally encouraged its use as all their inscriptions are written in Sanskrit. We are talking about Gupta period. Ignored earlier under the influence of Buddhist and Jaina traditions that wrote their sculpture and literary works in vernacular dialects like Pali, Prakrit, and Ardha Magadhi. Sanskrit saw its revival under the Guptas. The great poets, grammatists, grammarians, and playwrights of Sanskrit are known from this period. Apart from proficiency in political science and studies related to military and warfare, ministers of Gupta court, such as Harisena, you have heard about Harisena, the court poet of Samudragupta, were also poets and authors of no less reputation. Most of the poets in Samudragupta's kingdom enjoyed his patronage, just like Harisena. Harisena wrote Prayaga Prashasti in his honor. It is a pillar inscription on the details of his conquest, exploits, and victories. He has written a lot of things related to his ruler, related to his king, Samudragupta. Indian mind and talent blossom forth in stupendous intellectual progress was achieved. Numerous well known literary creations of great merit were composed. Poets like Kalidasa, whose fame reached far and wide, celebrated dramatists like Vishakha Shudraka. They wrote their works in Sanskrit and enriched Sanskrit literature with their original contributions. Alongside them, popular Buddhist philosophers and writers such as Vasubandhu, Asanga, Degganaga, Aryadeva, and Jaina scholars like Siddhasena also flourished during this era. This was a time when Sanskrit was flourishing and the Jainism, Buddhism, side by side, Pali, Prakrit, Ardha Magdi was flourishing at that time, according to the time. That is, next is the growth of literature at that time. Because we have studied a lot of things about painting, architecture. Now we are going to study about the growth of literature. In literature, about the epics. Epics connected to means Ramayana and Mahabharata. Ramayana and Mahabharata that are believed to have been dedicated around 4th and 5th century. The Mahabharata, the authorship of which is traditionally ascribed to Ved Vyasa. Have you listened about Ved Vyasa? Ved Vyasa was expanded, Mahabharata was expanded from the original, just like 24,000 verses to 1 lakh verses in Mahabharata. Means there were 24,000 to 1 lakh shlokas over there in Mahabharata, described by Ved Vyasa. It acquired the status of Panchaveda, means the Mahabharata has got the status of Panch Veda, means the fifth Veda, because we have studied about, we have 4 Vedas, Rig Veda, Sam Veda, Atharva Veda, Yajur Veda. But this Mahabharata was acquired the status of Panch Veda, means the fifth Veda at this time. There is much common material in this epic and other Shastras. We have studied about Dharma Shastra, Dharma Sutras, and Mahabharata, Ramayana. So many common things are there, common material in this epic. For example, some portions of Manu Smriti. Manu Smriti, written by Manu, appear identically in Shanti Parva of Mahabharata. Shanti Parva of Mahabharata. The greatest Sanskrit poet Kalidasa, one of the 9 gems of the court of Chandragupta II, wrote dramas like Abhigyan Shakuntalam, Malvika Agnimitram. He has wrote a lot of dramas, lot of books, just like Abhigyan Shakuntalam, Meghdut, Malvika Agnimitram, etc., and so on. This period also witnessed development and refinement of Sanskrit grammar on the foundation prepared by Panini. Heard about Panini? Panini, 6th to 4th century BCE, and Patanjali, 2nd century BCE. Zero and the subsequent evolution of the decimal system are credited to be the path-breaking discoveries of this period. Brahmagupta, Aryabhatta, and Varahamihira were, in trust sense, the earliest and foremost mathematicians and astronomers of the world. Aryabhatta wrote Aryabhatiyam, a famous work on geometry, famous work on algebra, arithmetic, and trigonometry. He belonged to Patliputra. He was an expert in various kinds of calculations. Contrary to existing beliefs, he was the first to find out and declare the earth revolves around the sun and rotates on its axis. Who we are talking about? Aryabhatta. In his famous work, Geometry, Algebra, Arithmetic, means on the contrary basis, he was the first to find out and declare the earth that revolves around the sun. Means sun is at the center and the earth is revolving around the sun on its axis. Yes, this period became a milestone in the evolution of philosophical ideas. Means so many philosophers were entered in this time period, 3rd century to 1200. So many philosophers entered here, and they have given so many philosophical ideas at that time. The continuing philosophical debate was now centered on the following 6 schools, 6 system of thought, just like Nyaya means analysis. Vaisheshika means individual characteristics. Sankhya means enumeration. Yoga means application. Mimamsa means inquiry. Vedanta, last portion of the Vedas, means Vedanta. Vedanta means last portion of the Vedas. Yes, in this class, we have studied the condition of woman. Now, I am going to summarize Unit 14 and Unit 15 both. In this unit 14, we have studied a lot about the condition of women, the situation of the society at that time, the right of women in politics, the right of women in marriage, in divorce system, and there was no right of women for women at that time because sati system was prevalent at that time. Sati system was prevalent at that time. We have studied about widowhood and yoga system also. We have studied about marriage and divorce. At that time, that was very easy for the male because the society was dominated by the males and the patriarchal system was prevalent at that time. And the property rights of women, the woman was having property right just like on the Stridhana, which was connected to the dowry of that particular woman, which she has taken from the family at the time of marriage. The gender relation, there was a big difference between gender relation, males and females, male dominated society at that time. Slaves, the condition of slaves was not very good before early medieval period. But in early medieval period, we are talking about means just like 6th to 12th century BCE, the situation of slaves and the condition of slaves was getting better at that time because all varnas are changing themselves as they have taken so many things from Vedic period. Now they are getting some changes in themselves. The condition of slaves was not very bad at that time. The tribes, they belong to the forest and they belong to the outside of the country at that time. The condition of tribes were getting good at that time. We have studied about Jagannath cult of Puri because that was the best example of tribal integration, which emerged under the patronage of Ganga dynasty in early medieval Orissa. Entire tribe did not convert to jati or varna that time. Untouchable, the condition of untouchables was not very good before 6th century BCE, but after 6th to 12th century BCE, we have discussed a lot of things related to untouchables, that the condition of untouchables was getting better at that time because so many castes people, they collect with each other at the time of war, at the time of any famine, they collect each other and then they help each other at that time. The condition of untouchables getting better at that time. The new caste which is connected to Vaidyas also. Vaidya means some people, just like Charak Samhita. We have not discussed about in this unit, but I'm giving you an example of Charak Samhita. Charak Samhita was a book which is connected to the Charak, and the Charak was the big doctor at that time who was having a great knowledge related to plants, medicines, and these things which he was getting knowledge. Proliferation of Shudras, Brahmins, Vaishyas, and Shudras, and they were connected to so many things, and they were getting better condition at that time. Now, in Unit 15, uh, yes, I'm coming to the point. Unit 15, just like growth of art, language, and literature. Because at that time, Gupta period, they were having great patronage. They were giving a great patronage to the temples because temple making activity, that was the best thing at that time for the rulers because after the death of that particular ruler, the next generation will remember that particular as we are remembering that rulers on behalf of their building temples. Yes, this is a big example related to this. Gupta Empire. And the language means I'm going to tell you about the Sanskrit and at the other side, Jainism, Buddhism, Pali, Prakrit, and other languages are the Magdi. these languages were adopted by the rulers at that time. But the ruler was Gupta period means, and they adopted Sanskrit language, and they have given less importance to other languages like Pali, Prakrit, and Ardha Magadhi. Less importance to that these languages. Literature, they at that time so many philosophers have entered into that time, and they have written a lot of books. Just like we have given examples, just like I'm going to tell you. Some examples like epics like Mahabharata, Ramayana, we have discussed about, and Aryabhatta, who was giving a best example related to the earth, the sun, and rotates on in axis. Okay, now we are going to end this topic. Have a nice day. Thank you.